großen Kolonnen unserer Bewegung heute siegend durch Deutschland marschieren, dann weiß ich, ihr schließt euch den Kolonnen an. Und wir wissen, vor uns liegt Deutschland, in uns marschiert Deutschland und hinter uns kommt Deutschland.
Come on, come on! Separate the officers for interrogation! That's it! Run! This side! This side! I'll be damned.
General Spatz, we meet at last.
Reichsmarshal Goering.
My wife, my daughter. Your 8th Air Force has destroyed my beautiful Luftwaffe and leveled our beautiful cities. Even so, I prefer to surrender to a fellow airman.
Gentlemen, may I?
Deep in the heart of Texas, prairie sky is wide and high. Deep in the heart of Texas, the sage is blue, it's time for you. Deep in the heart.
Musiden, zum Städtle hinaus.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Those pictures were on every wire service. American officers throwing a party for Hitler's #2 man.
What was the commander thinking?
I'm told it's a code of honor among airmen that transcends politics.
And brains, apparently.
The commander was reprimanded. And Ike has ordered that Goering be treated no differently than any other prisoner of war.
Excuse me? I finagled some real coffee from the Chief Justice's office.
Elsie's the best scavenger in the entire building.
You shouldn't have gone to so much trouble.
Oh, coffee's no trouble. Now a set of tires, that's another story.
I still can't believe he's gone. For me, it was like losing a father. Truly. Whatever I have, whatever I am, it's because of Roosevelt.
I was in London seeing Churchill when the news came. With the end of the war in sight, the president had sent me as his confidant to discuss a rather tricky subject. What to do with captured Nazi leaders.
What was Churchill's opinion?
He said they should be summarily shot for crimes against humanity. What's your opinion?
Well, I think if it's a crime for the Nazis to shoot people without a trial, how could it be less so for us to do the same thing?
That's Truman's feeling exactly. And Churchill now shares that view. Surprisingly enough, so does Stalin.
You're talking about a war crimes trial, which they attempted after the last war and it completely unraveled.
Because it had no weight. But this will be an international tribunal comprised of the 4 powers, America, England, France, and Russia. President Truman wants the best prosecutor in the country, one with a reputation for being tough, but impartial. He wants you, Bob.
I haven't prosecuted a case in years.
President Roosevelt chose you for the Supreme Court because of your integrity as a prosecutor. That's why Truman has picked you for this, because he wants a fair trial, not a legal lynching.
I like it right here, Sam. I mean, this would mean I would have to step down.
Temporary leave of absence. You'll be back in 6 months, maybe 7.
Is the president aware of the fact that I'm completely opposed to the death penalty?
Yes, he's not concerned because he knows you'll do whatever is right.
As you know, a fair trial means an uncertain outcome. If we don't prove the defendant's guilt, we'd have to let them walk, even if we could smell the blood on their hands. Do the Allied powers understand that?
Well, Truman does. You'll have a chance to make it clear to them. The trial is yours to create, Bob. You get to set the rules. Hire the staff, find the setting. You even get to pick the defendants. This trial could unravel, too, like the last attempt, if it is poorly planned, if it is unsound legally or morally. Or it could establish a basis for conduct among nations that would alter history for generations to come.
The trial will be held in Germany. That's what the defendants are, the evidence, witnesses.
Are there any decent hotels still standing? I don't relish the idea of spending months on some dreary army base.
We won't have to worry about that. No wives allowed at Army's request. Bad for morale. You know, all those men over there for years without their...
If you don't want me there, fine. I'll be downstairs whenever you're ready.
Minus 3. 15. Good. 15 plus 7. 22. Good. 9 times 9.
Good morning, General Spatz.
I'm afraid I have to ask you to get dressed and pack for travel.
Where are you moving us?
Only the Reichsmarshal. You're being transferred to Bad Mondorf.
Well, you know, it's a very pleasant spa. But why must I go alone?
Because that's where they're rounding up German war criminals.
No! No, No.
I'm sorry about that. Get dressed, please.
You must be brave. Very, very brave. Hedda, you hear? Come on, sweetheart.
I know who you are. It's the Jew butcher of Krakow. And we've seen the camps, too. That cheap bastard.
I must say I was lucky when the arms ministry was destroyed in an air raid in 1943. It rid me of useless paperwork and pencil pushers.
Sir, what do you think was the single most effective thing you did during the war?
When Hitler appointed me his Minister of Armaments, I threw out the military chiefs and turned to the professionals, industrialists and engineers. Then I borrowed the ideas of Walter Rathenau, the great Jewish chief of the German economy during the last war. Standardization of parts, the division of labor, and the maximum use of the assembly line.
Thank you, Dr. Speer. Gentlemen, we'll now break for lunch.
Dr. Albert Speer. Obviously, you are under arrest for major war crimes.
Move aside. Pay attention, orders are in. Now listen up. You'll all be taken to different places of detention. The following prisoners will go to Bad Mondorf as defendants in future war crimes trials. Step forward. Field Marshal William Keitel. Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz. Colonel General Alfred Jodl. Follow me.
I haven't left Washington since before the war. I couldn't even remember how to pack. I was so worried about bringing half the things that we need for the office, I completely forgot half the things that I need. I have one set of nylons for the entire time, and they already have a run. I mean, I even traded ration coupons with my friend Lois so I could buy nylons.
You are as jittery as a hen. What is the matter with you?
I've never been up in an airplane before.
Morning, Robert.
John?
Bob?
Tom?
Robert.
Good morning. Gentlemen, this is my Chief Secretary, Elsie Douglas. Elsie, this is Tom Dodd, who'll be Deputy Prosecutor.
Well, it's nice to finally meet you, Miss Douglas.
Pleasure.
Colonel John Harlan Amon, who'll be Head of Interrogations.
Miss Douglas.
Colonel Telford Taylor, who'll be the liaison with the other prosecuting teams.
Pleasure.
All mine.
And Colonel Robert Story, who'll be the head of our documents division.
Pleased to meet you, ma'am.
Colonel.
Now that we're all here, let's go.
Military leaders? Political leaders? Well, what about the bankers and the industrialists who funded the Nazis?
What about the soldiers and civilians who actually carried out the atrocities?
Can't put the whole damn country on trial.
But we do need to suggest the scope of the crimes. I want this trial to be the first of many.
Well, then how about choosing a symbolic figurehead from each category? We cover the whole spectrum. And that way, no one group gets off scot-free.
Makes sense.
If we win convictions, we can just keep right on prosecuting Nazis till the cows come home.
But remember, we may also fail to win convictions, in which case some or all of the defendants could go free.
I'm still wrestling with the validity of this trial. Crimes committed during war have never been called crimes.
Let's focus on existing law. What existing laws did the Nazis break?
Well, they broke peace treaties, border treaties, certainly Geneva Convention and Hague Convention.
Right. Every time they invaded a country, they broke a law.
My fear is that at the end of the day, when all is said and done, this trial will be perceived as nothing more than triumph of superior might. The winner is exacting punishment on the losers.
Our task is to make sure that this is not the triumph of superior might, but the triumph of superior morality. We're in a very interesting position here. We're in a position to fashion a future in which aggressive war will be dealt with as a crime.
Here, here.
Okay, let's go. Move out, let's go. Over there. Line up over there. Come on, let's go.
Corporal, new arrivals, identify yourself.
Fritz Saukel, sir. Head of labor conscription.
Former head.
Julius Streicher.
Publisher of... Sir, I can't pronounce it.
Der Stürmer.
It's fifth.
You bankers are all Jews. You think I don't know that?
Shut up.
Hjalmar Horace Greeley-Schacht, formerly president of the Reichsbank and minister of the economy. I do not understand why I have been accused here.
I'm your jailer, not your lawyer. You'll get your day in court.
Hans Fritschet, chief of radio operation in the Nazi propaganda ministry. Rudolf Hess, former deputy Führer.
Yes. You.
Joachim von Ribbentrop.
Nazi foreign minister. You.
Colonel, this is Dr. Robert WWII, head of the German Labor Front.
You're Albert Speer?
Yes, sir.
What's wrong with this man?
His mind is not what it used to be.
He's an old drunk. It finally caught up with him.
I said shut up!
Colonel, this man, Streicher, is a disgusting person. A pornographer and a Jew baiter. I do not wish to be out with him.
We make no distinction.
Colonel, I respectfully protest our arrest. We were only following orders, nothing more. As a fellow soldier, surely you must understand.
Now you're no longer a soldier. You are all war criminals. All of you. Lock them up. These Nazi bastards. Where's Dory?
Reichsmarshal Hermann Goering, at your service, sir.
You are in the United States Army stockade at Bad Mondorf. Did they tell you why you were here?
Because we lost the war, and I assumed we shot or hanged.
That's up to the court.
I've heard of this court. Its opinion does not concern me. The opinion of the German people, that is what really matters.
Is that so?
It is so. History will show that everything I did was for the greater German Reich. There will be statues of Hermann Goering all over Germany in 50 years. Little statues, perhaps, but one in every home.
You're as fat as a house. Starting right now, I'm putting you on a diet. You will be mentally and physically fit to stand trial.
Captain.
Who is it?
Hans Frank, sir. Tried to cut his wrist and throat. These soldiers stopped him before he could do any real damage.
The Jew butcher of Krakow. Corporal, take him to the infirmary. Have him checked out. I want a 4-man watch on him around the clock on the double.
Yes, sir.
Good work, Captain. What's your name?
Gilbert, sir.
You and your men want to chow with us?
Thank you, sir.
You a surgeon?
Psychologist.
What we're faced with, or so it appears, is the secular equivalent of drafting the 10 Commandments. Now, each nation has its own criminal statutes, but for the world at large, none exist.
None are necessary. We're trying war criminals whose guilt is unquestioned by the governments we represent.
General, if we're going to have a trial, it must be based on law. It must be a fair trial.
It must only determine degree of guilt and appropriate punishment.
A completely fair trial with opposing counsel, direct examination, and cross-examination.
Precisely.
Before judges that act as referees.
As in a sporting match? That is not the way it is done in my country.
No, in France, lawyers merely help the accused prepare a defense. They have little role in the court itself.
In the United States, a defendant is entitled to his lawyer's most aggressive representation.
Yes, as in Britain.
You would allow a man such as Ernst Kaltenbrunner, responsible for the Gestapo, concentration camps, for killing millions of innocent people, to stand before a court of law and declare himself not guilty?
That is precisely what we would allow.
20 million of my people were killed by these fascist criminals. Half of them civilians, killed without mercy. How many died in Washington this way, Mr. Justice Jackson?
General, it occurs to me that perhaps separate trials might be the most satisfactory way to reconcile our differences. The United States and the British, along with the French if they choose, will conduct a trial with the Nazis that we currently have in captivity. Kaltenbrunner, Frank, Speer, Goering. And the Russians, of course, would be free to hold their own trial with the ones that you have on hand.
There is no need to be so impulsive. We are, after all, allies. We must try to bridge our differences.
Well, at least the prosecution's a unified group now, even if we did have to compromise with the French and let the judges be the jury.
I must say, your neat little trump card turned Comrade General into a pussycat.
Well, I didn't enjoy playing it. I didn't want to sandbag the poor guy. I would have preferred to convince him.
Oh, your boy was quite convinced by your subtle reminder that we've got most of the big Nazi fish, while they only have a couple of minnows.
Nonetheless, I couldn't argue his point. My country was spared the worst of it. No bombed-out cities, no slaughtered children. I couldn't begin to know. How is it you can look out on all of this and still want to guarantee these men a vigorous defense?
I want to put National Socialism on trial, so they'll incriminate themselves. Besides, I don't ever want this to happen again. Well, there's no question you're the undisputed leader in all this. Today proved that. So when we finished our work here, you better go to Germany, find a place for the trial. If anything still exists, that is.
Robert, I can't believe this. My brother came here as a college student. I still have the picture book he brought me. It was nothing like this. This isn't even the same city. There were medieval bridges and gingerbread houses.
This was also the site of some of Hitler's biggest rallies. Nuremberg was the spiritual center of the Third Reich. General Clay, what are the odds, really, of finding the housing we'll need for the thousands of people that will be attending this trial?
Army guarantees it. Parts of the city were untouched by the bombings. There's hundreds of fine houses, some vacant, others whose owners are desperate for money.
What's that smell?
There's still around 30,000 bodies trapped under the rubble.
Ready? Yeah. Follow me.
Grand old Palace of Justice. A landmark in more ways than one. Took 5 bomb hits, but just shrugged them off.
Courtroom's upstairs, offices, that whole wing there, and behind that wall, all the jail cells you'll need. Okay, just right this way. Justice Jackson, the courtroom.
This is a mess.
It'll take a lot of work.
A lot of work.
But it's doable.
Bob? Ten Commandments.
10 Commandments in the same building where the Nuremberg laws were to create the deprived old German Jews of their rights. This is it. This is the place to hold the trial.
Give me the word, and I'll have General Patton move in 15,000 German POWs. Start cleaning up the whole city.
I'm giving you that word right now.
Captain Kiley, what do you think?
Well, we'll need to double the size of the courtroom. Have to take out that rear wall and cut into the attic for a visitor's gallery. Saw some terrific seats in an old theater here.
Great.
Chandelier's gotta go. Fluorescent's more practical, and let's...
Our Palace of Justice is going to see some justice once again.
Sir, this was just forwarded from the base.
Thank you very much, Sergeant.
Fuchs. Morris Fuchs, Brooklyn, New York.
Well, I knew it wasn't Wisconsin with that accent, Fuchs. Thank you. President Truman wants to appoint Francis Biddle as the American judge for the trial.
Are you serious? But he already fired Biddle as Attorney General. Why would he do that?
Guilt, maybe? Probably. I guess it's this instead of a gold watch.
How do you feel about that?
Well, read Truman's wording. Unless you have a problem with this, which means...
Don't have a problem with this.
Well, I've got to go back to Washington and brief President Truman anyway. I can stop in Philadelphia along the way and try to cajole Biddle into becoming a team player.
When do we leave?
I need you to stay here and set up our offices, find us a place to stay.
Make those decisions without you?
Oh, that'll be fine. I trust you.
Bob? Bob?
When your name is called, get your ass on the truck. Von Papen. Sure.
When we board the plane, get a seat by the window, dear boy. It may be the last view we have of the fatherland.
Alfred Jodl. Von Schirach. Almar Schack. Rosenberg. Von Neurath. Frick. Sockel. Albert Speer. William Kaiser.
I couldn't face going back into private practice. Not after all those years in Washington. The nerve center of the country, the war. What is the current status in Nuremberg?
Oh, we're gathering evidence, choosing defendants. We've settled on 22 men. We've narrowed our targets to those who ran the concentration camps.
Good thinking, splendid.
The ones who gathered the slave labor as well as those that used it.
Absolutely. Absolutely right.
The judges will have a great deal of work ahead of them with the pretrial discovery.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, of course, you'll be there to guide me through it. I'm thrilled, Bob. It's an honor. This means a great deal to me. Am I safe in calling the president and telling him that you've signed off on me? That I'm approved as chief American judge?
I'll arrange your flight this week. We need you over there as quickly as possible. We need to gear up fast. The trial's in 1 month.
We'll have dessert in Nuremberg.
All right. Hey, come on, slow down. Take it easy.
I've got to say, I find it a little unnerving walking past 300 German POWs carrying pickaxes.
That's why you got a bodyguard. Just let one of them try and mess with you. You want the desk sideways?
No, life from the side gives him a headache.
Well, you really take good care of this guy.
Well, it's my job.
That's fine.
Perfect. Oh, could you please find Captain Kiley? I want to know if the filing cabinets are ready.
Sure thing.
First thing you must understand about these men is that they are war criminals. Their rank means nothing. There's to be no exchanging of salutes or any other military courtesy. Now, I know most of you men saw combat. You lost friends, companions. We've all seen the bodies at the side of the road. Men who gave their lives in the service of their country. Gave their lives so that we might have the opportunity to bring these criminals to justice. Now, our job is to make sure that these criminals survive long enough to have that justice served. To make sure that our friends, our companions, did not die in vain. That'll be all.
Stand to!
On your feet. Swab yourself.
I beg your pardon?
Der bucket and der mop. Use them. Pick it up. Pick them up now. Pick him up. Hey! Lieutenant! Hey! With us! Back off!
Easy, easy. Okay. Put him down. Easy. That's it. Easy. Okay.
Doctor?
He'll rest now. His heartbeat was up to almost 300 beats a minute. Could have led to heart failure.
That's just great. That's just what I need. To lose the biggest bull in the roundup. Lieutenant.
Wheeler, sir.
I'm making this man your personal responsibility. He is not to exert himself. God is my witness. He will be in the best of health when they hang him.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Lieutenant Zeres, with your permission, I shall call you Lieutenant.
That's fine, sir.
Good. Huh.
Thanks for the ride, Fuchs.
No problem.
Robert! Welcome back.
Nice to be back.
It's really good to have you back. So,
Quite a job you've done here.
you should see the inside. Come on.
Excellent work. Captain,
Kylie.
What's your background, Kylie?
Couple of architecture classes, never got a degree.
Neither did I.
Are you serious? You're a justice of the Supreme Court.
You know, I practiced law for 20 years with only a single year of law school under my belt. Things were a lot easier back then.
Shouldn't go around giving away your secrets.
I won't tell if you won't tell. How are we making out with these gizmos for the simultaneous translation?
IBM's sort of inventing the process as we go, sir, but we'll be ready for you. I promise.
I don't doubt that.
Excuse me.
Question is, will we be ready?
The whole team's waiting in your office. They'll fill you in.
I missed you.
I missed you, too.
You know, when I was home, I couldn't find a phone number, I couldn't find a document.
Well, now you won't have to worry about that.
I'll take Gary.
Should be fun.
Tom, I'd like you to do Spear.
My pleasure.
I'd also like you to take on Shurock and Funk.
Good.
Are the indictments ready to be served?
Yeah.
I say we hold off until the last possible moment. Until they're indicted, we get to treat them like POWs. We can interrogate them all day long. Once they're indicted...
Once they're indicted, they're entitled to have their lawyers present. Fellas, this is going to be a fair trial. Let's serve those indictments as soon as possible. If the British deliver the indictments, wouldn't be right for us to hog the whole show now.
What if the defendants want Nazi lawyers?
Oh, hell no. What kind of crazy example would that set?
Free speech?
For crying out loud, boys. Nazis defending Nazis when they ought to be on trial themselves. And we're gonna pay them?
I can't help wondering what these fellas would do if the situation was reversed and they had us on trial.
Well, we don't have to answer that question in this room right now. The judges will be here in 1 week. We'll let them decide. Would you excuse me for one moment?